5. Jonathan Owens versus Nick Butcher. Some big names here.
Just a nice little battle of the mustachioed men here.
And it looks like
bravo.
It looks like we're entering into the game in progress, and we see the beautiful alt art Channel Lake Frigid. Looks like it's early though. Maybe even I've been told it was turn 2 that we were entering in on, which is perfect because now we can see basically the full playthrough of this game.
Absolutely love the white bordered crater fists on Nick's side there.
Got to flex those History Pack 1 cards.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
He's got, no, I just want to point this out. He's got a white bordered crater fist next to the alternate art Channel Lake Frigid.
Yeah,
so it's like feast and famine, if you will, pushing that icy hammer, as they like to say.
Highly intentional. And he's just like, I'm gonna block it out. This is turn 2, so both players will not be drawing up at the end of the turn.
So fun little note here. We see almost the exact suite of equipment except one thing. The choice in shield.
Oh, good
Rampart
call.
being played by Nick, and Jonathan is playing the Stalagmite. And this could signal a variety of things. It could just be a simple, in this matchup, in this mirror matchup, I prefer this. It could also speak towards what their specific archetype is trying to do. Like if they've built defense like just control Starvo, or if they are the more like roulette casino Starvo.
That is a very, very good call. We were actually talking to Brian a little bit earlier about, whether you want to run the Rampart versus the Stalagmite. And it's 100% true, like what you said. It all depends on build. It all depends on play style. I mean, the Stalagmite still blocks for 3. And so the way I like to think about it is, like, if I'm running Stalagmite, or if I'm running the Rampart of the Ram's Head over Stalagmite, I want to at least get the value out of it and block for at least more than 3, right?
Sure.
So you can get the block value. And so that tells me that Rampart probably wants to go a little bit longer.
Okay, flex alert. I think Nick Butcher just played a pink Staunch Response.
Oh, spicy.
For those of you who don't
Very
know,
spicy.
that is an alpha card, and it is a card. Oh, is that also pink? No, I'm just getting ahead of myself. I think that actually might be
a foil one.
Foil Majestic Crippling Crush? Is that like...
Much like Sasha, Nick Butcher is a real OG Flesh and Blood player, so this does not surprise me at all.
But
dropping the alpha, majestic foil crippling crush,
dropping bombs. Also presenting the casual 13 because you showed the Starvo fuse here. So this is
just 13.
If we wanted to put this all together, it's 13 damage, it's dominate, it's go again, it's crush effect.
So you're telling me it's
dirty.
is
what I'm saying.
It's pretty good.
Look, absolute just filth over there.
And at this point, if you're Jonathan, are you just like, well, do I eat it? How much do you commit any equipment to this at all?
No. Oftentimes you just look at this and you go, okay, I'm just gonna say cool,
and just take it right on the chin.
Take the 2 cards from hand and just go for it. There could be some weird ancillary cases where his hand just works out, like if he has a staunch response. Oh yeah,
well, there you
if
go.
He has a staunch response, yeah, exactly that. Then you can deal with it, right? It worked out
exactly.
I wish we could have planned it that way. That would have been fantastic. But he is choosing to a staunch response, and I think he's paying into the excess staunch response to get the extra value. If both of these players are playing red staunches, and if both of them are on the control side of things, that'll make this matchup very interesting because one of those players has to choose to establish themselves as the aggressor, or they're both just kind of playing to their outs. And look at this. We have a fuse. They're just trading blows.
Yeah, it's Battle of Titans. Just taking
53 damage evergreen coming across.
For those watching, this is not 53 not 53 damage.
As an 8 with dominate, go again,
8, yes.
Coming across. Again, showing the alternate art Channel Lake Frigid, which you could actually consider just like establishing and playing after this, because remember this does have go again. So if you decide, if like for example, if you have an ice card, you could make the argument that I'm just going to pitch and then play Channel Lake, or you could pitch the Channel Lake away and Winter's Wail for 4 with a Frostbite.
Here we have a spicy turn timbered. Was this one fused? I don't recall seeing a fuse here.
I'm not sure. Yeah, he's just going to use the Channel Lake to threaten there. And then, of course, the block with the sink below. Choosing to sink, draw the card.
Got all the defense reactions here. Just well suited to kind of turtle up.
Yep. Arsenaling there, allowing the possible uses of Crown of Seeds, but you ripped so many cards from your opponent's hand on that last turn that you're just like not really worried about Crown of Seedsing for defense unless they threaten you with like an Icy Hammer like this, and you want to keep your resources up.
I have a strong feeling we're going to be seeing a lot of these Icy Hammers this match. It's going to be a lot of blocking, a lot of defense reaction, and then just hammer time.
You know, it may actually come down to a late game where, like classic Flesh and Blood fashion, where they're trading, attacks, trading like weapon attacks, and entering into fatigue. If both players are really consistent about using defense reactions, it could be a very interesting long game. But it could also just pivot and become, I'm going to smash you, and then you're going to smash me, and then it depends on how they're going to play it. This is the choice that both players have in this mirror match.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a very real possibility. And, in this format, we haven't really explored it a ton, honestly. It feels fast. Like, it doesn't feel like a grindy fatigue format, but when decks like this come up against each other, we could see that, as you called it, classic, Flesh and Blood format. Matchup where you just kind of go into fatigue.
Yeah.
All your armor's broken and you're just kind of like,
And it's just pure, what values do I have to block? How can I sequence the cards remaining in my deck? And there's another fuse.
So let's see, we have Icequake, we have Lightning Claws, and then another...
Break Ground is coming across for 9. Pitch in the Heaven's Claws to just come across with that Break Ground. With the Go Again, Dominate. It's fun to have Break Ground come down when you have an arsenal, because then you have 2 different ways to cycle your arsenal, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fantastic way to just basically filter cards through your hand. Yeah. Trying to sculpt to whatever, end you're trying to get. If you want to go tanky, you can go tanky. If you're trying to go a little bit more aggro, push some damage, you can do that too.
Honestly, it's a card like Break Ground is a card that I've liked since it was released for that extra value, and it's just now really starting to charge up and see that higher level of play.
I always really liked it in Aria Draft. Yeah, like you said, I love now seeing it in constructed formats.
Yeah, because it just provides another avenue to do the thing that you probably want to do, but you maybe don't do on your turn because, Crown of Seeds on your own turn doesn't really have much effect in a matchup like this where they're not going to return any damage on your turn. But it allows you to play offensively or to find a better arsenal card. Yeah,
and I like drawing cards, so you can just, I don't like this arsenal card. We'll get rid of that and draw something hopefully a little bit better.
Throws the old 3-block Winter's Grasp down.
Yep, the ice version of the Autumn's Touch, as I would like to say.
Yep.
The icy Autumn's Touch.
And it's interesting because we could talk about the the suspension of Autumn's Touch and the effect that it has on the deck, because taking away a 3-block Earth, your only 3-block Earth card, basically asks the question of players, do we want to stay with the casino build that allows our ratios of Earth to Ice to Lightning to be a certain way, or do we want to understand that there is another card we could just lean into, and technically it was played by many because it is a 3-block, and just go with more Ice, and that leans you towards that control build. I think that's what we've seen a lot of players do, because it also had success recently as well.
Yeah, and like the difference between 2-block and 3-block is actually a lot over the course of a game. It'll add up to a lot of life.
Yep.
And in a grindy matchup like this will mean the difference between victory and failure.
That's right. Oh, everybody fuses. You fuse, I'm going to fuse after you.
Yeah.
Then you fuse again. Comes in with the Evergreen, red Evergreen, pushing a lot of damage.
I think we're going to see a lot of this kind of stuff, just these Evergreens and Break Grounds.
Yep.
So was this one Evergreen from hand or Arsenal?
I don't quite know. Either way, and I was thinking about that as you were asking the question.
Yeah.
Whether or not it matters is an interesting proposition. He's just going to take the full thing, and this is why. Because both players have access to, I don't want to call it on-demand dominate, but a dominate in general.
Fairly consistent, actually.
It can, in some ways, allow you to dodge the fatigue matchup, because your opponent has to start arsenaling defense reactions to get around that dominate and survive. So it could become like we saw early. Everyone was playing defense reactions. They were like chip blocking with certain things. And now we're like, okay, well, you dominated, I dominated, you dominated, I dominated. At this point, just going to keep my hand. I'm going to dominate my next thing, and it's just going to be this back and forth battle until someone dies.
I'll be completely honest. As someone who likes to play a little fast and loose, that's the gameplay that I like to play. Just swinging punches left and right, you know.
And there it is again.
Yeah, there we go.
Dominated, go again, break ground, yellow.
Just break ground, evergreen, back and forth.
Coming in for 8. Now, I think it's going to be interesting to see who pulls the second dominated crippling crush first, or Oaken Old. Whoever gets there first may end up stealing the tempo completely.
Yeah, I think those are really some of the big key cards we need to look out for. The cards that just have these not only massive attacks, but just force cards out of your opponent's hand.
Yeah. Interesting block here, choosing at this moment to block with a Stalagmite to give that Frostbite, realizing that he's got a 2-card hand with a Winter's Grasp blue showing. We know that the Winter's Wail is coming. So do we want to force them to pay extra for the Winter's Wail and make that card go away so that they don't get an Arsenal and a Crown of Seeds trigger?
Yeah, I mean, what trade-off do you like here? Do you like the arsenaling and kind of setting up for a bigger turn, or just jamming in for like damage like he's doing here with the Winter's Wail?
In my opinion, the way that this is shaping out, it's looking like by making this block with Stalagmite, Jonathan's doing one of two things. Either he's saying, my hand is good, and I want to force a card from you so you can't Crown of Seeds and possibly prevent, like what we talked about, one of those big attacks. Or he's saying that I'm choosing in this moment to become the control player and to start trying to, weather large attacks. And so whether or not it's good or bad really hinges upon what you have in your hand at that time and what your overall outlook is on this game.
Yeah. And both players have been able to, remain fairly neck and neck in this.
Jonathan chooses to just Arsenal pass, I think, and draw up to a 4-card hand. A very interesting choice, blocking with 2 non-fusible real cards.
Yeah, giving Nick a bit of tempo here, actually.
Nick not able to capitalize with a fuse of his own. I call it a fuse. It's not really a fuse. It's a Starvo trigger.
Right.
But it feels like fusing. It feels like the Captain Planet style of everybody coming together.
The prismatic fuse. Fuse all of the elements into one. Exactly.
Bingo indeed. This is the... just don't give commentators with too much time on their hands the tablet that puts cards up on the screen, because now Tannen he has carte blanche. He can put anything up right now. Tannen's just going to put something up. He's just going to. There's going to be a card in here that has no bearing on the game.
I put Azalea up. Tannen's like, bingo.
Oh, hey, we have a freeze here.
Speaking of Captain Planet.
Captain Planet fuse.
Yeah.
And he's going to choose to play out the...
Crush
love
Confidence.
Crush Confidence.
Classic, absolutely classic card here. Coming in for just a 9,
Yeah, casual 9.
Dominate.
Depending on how you read that, it could also equal 54. But that would be... That'd be game breaking.
Instead, it doesn't, but it could.
9, Dominate, Crush. I love Crush Confidence. It's weird, and I've liked Crush Confidence in all of my Guardian decks since... Well, I guess since Welcome to Wraith.
Since the dawn of time.
Yeah, no, I really have, and it's always sort of been baffling to me. I guess the card itself has just been pushed out by better cards over the time. But the effect here, of course, if you look at it, they lose all hero card effects and activated abilities.
Yeah.
Has always been one of those effects that you go, ooh, I like that. I mean, we see the same sort of thing on Sleep Dart.
Yeah,
and people
Ranger plays with that a little bit,
Yeah. And so here... showing up on Crush Confidence, I've always liked that, and for 3, that's not a bad. It's not a bad trade-off.
3 for 9 is pretty good.
Yeah.
Blanking out Starvo is actually also not too bad, especially when the Starvos are just Captain Planeting it up.
Yep.
And yes, I did use Captain Planet as a verb.
Yes,
I did.
That's fantastic. Choosing here to block with Pulse of Candlehold, which is kind of funny because he knows when this hits, I'm not going to be able to fuse anyway. Might as well chuck it out there.
Right. And here we have good old just blocking with the trusty shield. Let's see. We're going to see some damage coming through.
Yeah, this is a beefy attack right here. This turn. That's a fantastic turn cycle for Jonathan.
The 9 and 7. Like
9 followed by 9 followed by 7.
It's not too bad.
Turning off your opponent's hero effect, their activated abilities.
Bravo going completely upside down.
So that equates to just pushing a casual 4 with the Winter's Wail, leaving a card in your hand, allowing you to set up the Crown of Seeds arsenal.
Winter's Wail not threatening a Frostbite.
No, it is not.
So it's just 4. But I mean, 4 is a great break point in Flesh and Blood, and every point of damage here is really really going to matter.
Yeah,
the game is so neck and neck.
That turn was an absolute huge pivot turn, and it's the one that we were talking about earlier. It didn't involve any of the cards we mentioned, but it just involved straight up vanilla damage. And weirdly enough, a Crush Confidence just said, hey, if this hits, you're not going to have your effect. And that simple fact meant that Nick says, okay, well, I'm going to get rid of the thing that will allow me to fuse. I'm just going to pitch, attack with weapon and arsenal, and lose a lot of tempo. So he's going to have to claw his way back in.
So we have a Blink getting pitched for another Winter's Will. So once again, this is just 4, not threatening a Frostbite. But, I mean, 4 is not too bad. This is a 2 block, so it looks like Nick is going to take 2 gun into 17.
Yeah, maybe giving him tempo right back, though, interestingly enough. Winter's Wail just the only thing that he has going for him on this turn.
I would like to note that Nick is basically rocking a completely fresh set of equipment here.
Yes.
Hasn't blocked with any of it in a meaningful way, so you definitely have to keep that in account. Nick looks like he's at 17, but effectively he's in a little bit more.
And there we have a normal Crippling Crush. It's not for 13 Dominate Go again.
Yeah,
Just 11.
Just a normal Rainbow Foil Alpha Crippling Crush.
Yeah, I think it is, too.
I think it is.
And that is a rare card. We'll put it that way. It is incredibly rare to find alpha rainbow foil cards that are majestic.
Yep,
and that is the ultimate flex.
Love to see like the OG players playing with their OG cards.
Yeah, man.
Nick has probably been rocking this card for a very long time.
Not only that, he put a die on top of it. He's like,
he did,
I'm just going to jam this 11 die on top.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? Why not? Just to show you how much it is. So, I mean, it's 11, right? It's not bravoed up, right? It doesn't have Dominate, doesn't have Go Again or the +2, but it's still 11 damage, and it still has a pretty nasty crush effect.
Yeah.
So it basically is just saying, like, no matter what, you're going to be losing some cards, right?
Yeah.
And it really heavily incentivizes blocking.
It either does that or that you just say, okay, fine, I'm going to roll the dice and see which 2 cards you get rid of from my hand. But here he is just going to straight up blocking for 6, 7,
Thrown in the kitchen
8.
sink.
And the Tunic is now in block, and that means it's going to go away. So we've entered the end game. We're in the end game now, and all the equipment is starting to dissipate for Jonathan.
He's got some shiny boots still. He's got a little bit. He's got a little bit of stuff there.
Oh, but he has his own fuse to fall back on. Probably going to play that Evergreen down.
Yeah, exactly as you called. Big, nasty. What is this? 8?
Yep,
8 Evergreen?
I believe it's an 8 Evergreen because that's a yellow, so it'd get the +2. Normally comes for 6, but instead it's coming for 8 with Dominate Go Again. Nick can get a little bit back into this game.
Yeah. Nick is still sitting on all of his equipment.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just want to point this out. Yes, the life totals at this moment are totally equal.
Yes.
But what you have as far as blocking equipment is absolutely huge. And I just want to point this out as well. 1 block already being used on Stalagmite. Once the second block is done, that breaks as well. Whereas Nick has all equipment accessible still to block.
Yep. And
Rampart, which will never die.
Yep. 100%. And you can't discount like those Crater Fists. So they block for 2, but then they block for another 1 afterwards. So that's actually 3 effective, extra health.
Yeah, he has 6 block on equipment plus an infinite block on Rampart, basically.
Infinite one-ish block.
Yes. Can block every Kodachi ever.
Yes. Well, as long as they break the combat chain.
That's true.
Yeah. So
just going to take, I think he just took the 8 here.
Yeah.
Which is going to push him all the way down to 9, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, like, at this point, do you just take it on the chin? Or do you try to stick with the controlling, grindy strategy? And I think what we talked about earlier, what you mentioned earlier, is that it might just come down to dominated punches back and forth.
Well, when you have a full grip like this and you have an armor lead, like an equipment lead, you may just be considered, ooh, that's interesting, coming down with a lightning surge for 4.
Was that one from the Arsenal?
I don't recall. Either way, if it is from the Arsenal, this is fantastic
Yeah.
because it does allow him to push, this plus like a Winter's Whale, but it looks like it was not.
Just from
instead.
hand.
You can't pitch a red lightning surge to attack with the Winter's Whale, so you just
No.
throw it out there anyway, right?
Not quite enough. Not quite enough. But it's still 4 damage.
And this is why he kept the hand, because he fuses the
Oh,
fuses the
oh
crippling
my.
crush.
Oh my.
So he had the previous crippling crush, and now he has this crippling crush, which is fused. And so he fuses it, and then he pitches all the resources so that he can play it out there.
Third crippling crush of the game. You know what?
Yep.
Everyone talking about how great Oakenold is, but let's harken back to a classic, old school crippling crush.
Yeah.
Still very good. Ooh, staunch
now
response,
that is
though.
a good answer to the crippling crush, being able to staunch response plus, I believe, the pitch there as well.
Yeah, it
because
looks
he
like
pitches 3 in a yellow and a red, and then pitches the extra. Or perhaps he pitched 2 plus the red plus the blue. Yeah, that pushes all the way up staunch response to block a nice solid amount,
A nice
avoiding
tidy 10.
avoiding the old crippling crush effect.
Yeah, I mean that was like kind of the perfect card to have in that situation.
Yes, it was. Absolutely.
You know, Nick's got to be a little bit disappointed at that. He's like, oh yeah, I got to windmill slam this dominated crippling crush, and Jonathan's like, nah, I got it.
Having the exact answer. Now, technically, what that did do is basically make Jonathan have take the turn off.
Yeah.
So you do, in that respect, win a turn cycle because you've thrown something, but your opponent has not. You could argue that you didn't, though, because that whole process was blocked by 1 card. Of course, then again, you did throw 1 card, so there's an interesting trade-off to be made there, an argument to be made on who won that turn cycle.
Yeah.
You pitched 3 cards, threw 1 big thing, and they blocked with a staunch response and pitched 2 others.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like in a grindy matchup, you pitch the cards so they go on the bottom of your deck, so you'll still have them from later. But on the same, side of things, Nick still maintains tempo.
Yeah.
And so he can still just jam on in with whatever he's got. Though it's all draw dependent,
Yes.
Definitely, like this turn, for example, is much, less lackluster.
Yeah, it's not taking the turn off by any means, but he's just throwing a yellow evergreen for 6.
Yeah.
And this is not fused, so it does not have go again. It does not have dominate.
Yep. Just a regular old evergreen.
Yeah. So there's no follow up here, which may just mean that your opponent just takes it. It looks like he is just going to take it. Be content to get lower life, but keep your hand and maybe swing for lethal because Nick is at 7, it would appear.
I kind of like taking it here.
Yeah,
like
I agree.
You gave your opponent a ton of tempo, and they have kind of a mediocre turn, and you're like, oh, you know what? I'll take advantage of this.
Yeah,
I'll gain the tempo back.
Coming in with his another copy, I should say, of Red Crush Confidence.
Crushing all that confidence.
Is, again, it's like a nice value. It's 7 for 3, and that's without the Starvo fuse, right?
Right.
So 7 for 3, and it blanks hero effects. So it asks the question in this exact matchup, and maybe you only cited in for this matchup, and maybe you cited in for like Chain or something like that, but in this very matchup, it asks the question, first of all, do you have the fuse in your hand to trigger your own Starvo ability? If you do, are you just going to take the cards from your hand that would do that and block with them? Because if you don't, then it's off anyway. And look, he tossed an Oakenold and 2 other cards to just say nope, and so that he could return Volley with a Winter's Whale.
Yep. Getting a little ahead. He's just like, you know what? I'm just jamming it with this Winter's Whale. I'll just do it while you draw up. And so Jonathan here is still presented with an opportunity to gain a little bit of tempo here. Just a single Winter's Whale. This one does have the on-hit effect.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's not nothing. Frostbite token could come into play here.
Now, we talked earlier about the fact that Jonathan doesn't have much in the way of equipment block left, but he still has perhaps the most key piece of equipment, and that's Crown of Seeds.
Yes.
And he's always going to have that in this matchup. And he has the Arsenal card, which can tuck and block 1, and then this becomes just a 1-card block, allowing him 2 cards to maybe return with something.
Yeah.
Or 3 cards, I should say, because you are going to draw off of the Crown of Seeds as well.
Yeah, depending on the situation, you can get a lot of value out of that Crown of Seeds. Like, if you pitch a 2 or 3 pitch card, you can toss in those boots as well.
Yeah.
Like get some value out of that.
Exactly. So even though he is behind on blocks with equipment, you see he has right now, at this moment, a full grip of cards, a 1-point life lead, and perhaps the tempo to win the game if he has the ability to fuse.
Yeah, I mean, like, winning here is a big deal. You know, we are at the first Flesh and Blood Pro Tour. Even though it's just a Winter's Well, you know, this decision is incredibly relevant.
Pitching exposed to the elements.
That is a spicy card,
Yeah.
I would say.
Crown of Seeds to the bottom. Crown of Seeds, the card to the bottom, I should say. Drawing into a new card, taking a look. Always starting with this is wise, because if you draw into like a fuse trigger, then you can just, you know, pop off on your turn and perhaps seal the game.
Oh,
but
for
instead,
sure.
just blocking, taking one.
So yeah, so if he does take one here, it will create.
Or taking none because Crown of Seeds, my fault.
Oh, looks like we do have a Starvo activation.
Yep, and it's probably just going to be that wintergreen. Sorry, wintergreen. That's what it should be called. Wintergreen. Let's go. Evergreen. No, evergreen yellow coming across for the casual 8 again.
It's a very refreshing card. I
it's so
understand.
wintergreen.
It's close. It's close. If anyone is going to play a card called Wintergreen, I think Starvo. He looks like he has a very fresh breath, you know?
Yeah, I can see that. I can see it. He's got a big smile.
Exactly.
He's so happy to be here. He's happy to be here.
He's happy for you to be here. He's happy to be here.
In the grand scheme of Flesh and Blood, he may not be here for a long time,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he is here for a good time.
Yeah. And you know what? For the time that he is here, he's made quite the statement, I would
He's
say.
certainly been the star of the show at a lot of these recent events.
Yes.
Oh, and there's the turn timber from Arsenal to counteract the fuse and stop the big old push.
So was this turn timber
From Arsenal, yes. It was from
Nice.
Arsenal. It was not fused unless he showed the fuse off camera.
Yeah. Unsure of that, but still, we have Jonathan following that up with a classic hammer, Winter's Well. Blocked with another Okanold.
Yeah.
Seen a lot of those Okanolds just getting blocked with and thrown into the bin. I know Nick has blocked with at least 2 of them so far.
And at this point, Nick, I think, is maybe resigning himself to, you know, swing hammer Arsenal or just Arsenal and pass.
Yeah, I mean, the decks at this point aren't looking that thin, right? I think there's still a little bit of meat in there.
It's the life totals that are low, which is
Right.
causing this to be in the end game, and he is just going to Arsenal and pass. Perhaps not having enough resources to safely Arsenal a card after attacking with Winter's Whale, so maybe he didn't have a blue plus a good Arsenal.
We have a good old Pulse of Volthaven
Yes.
right off the bat. So this is an 8 Winter's Well.
Yeah, Pulse here is actually going to buff up that Winter's Whale attack as well.
So this is Winter's Well, threatening 8 damage as well as a Frostbite token. You know, once again, any incremental advantage here is going to be pretty big. And at this point, you know, throwing in lethal attacks like this is kind of where you want to be. It's going to be real tough for like the first person who is able to dominate a huge attack,
Yeah.
and if your opponent doesn't have a defense reaction to respond, it can be a game ender.
And over the past, 2 or 3 turns, Nick has been very meticulous, very specific about blocking all the incoming damage and not taking leak damage. And you may think, well, why is that? Because it's not like you're worried about on-hit effects.
Right.
But you have to think of your life total as being X minus 4.
Yes.
Because any dominated attack
Yeah.
will basically present that over the top, right?
Yeah.
So if you start taking leak damage and you go to like, you're at 5, you're at 4, you can die to a wide variety of dominated attacks. Now, he has more room to play with because he hasn't, like we talked about, used a lot of his blockable equipment.
He's been very, very disciplined with his equipment usage here.
And pitching the Eye of Ophidia to come across with a non-icy Winter's Whale, but he is going to get to opt.
I love the Eye of Ophidia in this deck. Not one that I would have pegged for Starvo right off the bat. Definitely one that we see a lot in Kano, but I do like this. You know, being able to sculpt your hand, set up for a possible, you know, game-winning.
Fuse, right?
Yeah, Starvo Fuse. Yeah,
exactly. And it's also very shiny.
It's a very pretty card. Yes.
I don't know if that is a cold foil Eye of Ophidia.
Knowing Nick, maybe.
That would be the ultimate flex.
Give you a solid maybe.
That'd be absolute craziness if it were.
If it was, it would be probably the most expensive card we've seen on coverage.
So pushing this damage, that leaves him the opportunity to Arsenal his last card and allow him that Crown of Seeds plus whatever blocks he has in the future. And I think he's, at this point, he's sort of pivoted for that. Perhaps it's like a temporary thing, but it could be a mindset shift here, and it'll be interesting to see as it goes, of maybe pivoting completely to the control side of things and just managing life totals, trying to just take whatever is being thrown at you in a way that allows you to come back with like one hammer or just maintain your hand.
Yeah. So we have a full block here, three from the lightning and one from the crown of seeds.
Drawing up the hand and passing on over to Jonathan. Jonathan with a 4-card hand.
Yeah, Jonathan's got a good grip on him. It's really down to it.
Looks like a 3-card hand. My apologies.
Both players are just really, I don't want to say turtling up, but yeah, kind of turtling up.
Well, this is what I talked about earlier in the game, where it could lead to a situation at low life totals where both players are literally playing just that fundamental flesh and blood style of like swing hammer, try to take cards from your hand, make you get caught in a situation where you can't quite block.
Yeah.
It's like that classic thing you do in Blitz or in Draft or in Sealed. It's just fundamental flesh and blood. And here we saw this play earlier.
Yeah, we did.
And here we have it on Nick's side, where he comes across with Pulse plus Winter's Wail.
Yep, Pulse, Winter's Wail will threaten a Frostbite token as well. Yeah, I mean, I love a Winter's Wail for 4, but I love a Winter's Wail for 8 even more.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
It is pretty good. It makes a good facsimile of like a Nothos.
Right, yeah, and you also are threatening a Frostbite here because you did push the Icy Encounter to this. So Jonathan's looking at his hand thinking, okay, this is 8 damage, which is casual lethal.
It is casually lethal damage.
It's casual lethal. So again, how many cards do we commit to this? I feel like more than any other class, Guardians have to be good at exactly what we're looking at right now, because Guardian as a class fundamentally puts themselves into this position more than any other class in the game. Maybe besides like Katsu.
Yes.
Where the Katsu plays in games like crazy as well. But this fundamentally is what Guardians can do and should be able to do at a high level, which is why we're seeing it here play out at the Pro Tour.
Here we have a Staunch Response from Arsenal, which tells me that Jonathan probably has a very interesting hand that he just straight up just doesn't want to block with. Because that staunch response from Arsenal could be something that he could have sat on and waited for a dominate turn.
He chose not to pitch the excess into it. He was comfortable taking the Frostbite here and going to 7. Both players at parity. He's going to double pitch for the Winter's Wail. You have to pitch more than the 3, more than the 1 card here, because you do have the Frostbite to deal with. But this is a Frosty Hammer for 4.
This is a Frosty Hammer. It is hammer time. I believe we'll be seeing hammers now and hammers in the future. Many hammers. We have Oakenold being pitched, which is also interesting.
Yeah.
Keeping track of these kind of cards from here on out is going to be very important, because these are the cards that are very, very strong that could have the potential to close out, and it could get to the point where we see these on the second cycle of the decks.
Yeah, I think we're well into the second cycle at this point. I'm curious now if this pitch for Oakenold, because fundamentally, like, if you play out this Oakenold at this stage in the game, it's very unlikely that you're going to get the fuse trigger off on Oakenold, because you do need basically 2 cards at this point. I think he's blocked perhaps with his Candle Hold, or sorry, not Candle Hold, with his, he played his Pulse, right?
Yeah.
I can't recall which one he still has left in the deck.
Either way, we have a Bravo activation.
Yep, which is super good if you are sitting in Nick's position, because you can push extra damage. Fusing with the Pulse of Eisenloft.
Yes. And is that a blue Breakground, which would be coming in? If it was blue, it would be coming in for 5 plus 2, the 2, coming in for 7.
Casual 7 here.
With Dominate. Jonathan still has some equipment that he could use, so like Dominate just by itself isn't enough to close out the game, even if he doesn't have a defense reaction.
This could be that kind of setup turn, though, because if you take any leak damage here or on the following hammer swing, then another fused Dominate attack probably seals it with what? You have 1 block with your shield, which we see here.
Yeah.
And you have 1 set of blocks with your boots. This, by the way, this shield block is very well timed, because it will force both cards to be pitched by Nick if you want to push the 4.
Yeah, I do really like this block here. Just giving him another Frostbite token.
Yeah.
Just makes it kind of awkward.
And he's choosing, in this case, what we talked about earlier. In this case, he's choosing not to pitch 2 cards to attack with Winter's Wail. And instead, he's choosing to just sit on the card that he has in his hand, arsenal the other card, and pass on over. But is there a possible instant speed activation of something? Considering the Crown of Seeds to sculpt his hand so that he could maybe hit his own fuse. He went all the way down to 1.
He did go to 1, so there's some degree of confidence in that. Like just taking, 6 on the chin, going to 1. You don't just do that for no reason, right?
This means you're looking to you're looking to close the game on your turn. And pitching away to Oakenol. Did he get the Oakenol fuse? He got the fuse off on Oakenol. It's very unlikely to get that fuse this late in the game, but because of this exact reason I was alluding to earlier, at this point, you can't generally afford to take a bunch of damage to set your hand up for a fused Oakenol because you're so lost, right?
Right, exactly.
And it was in that exact moment where only that amount was presented and only the Frostbite was given, and only the decision was made by Nick to not attack that he was able to play this Oakenol, and it may just win him the game.
Yeah, let's see what Nick...
Oh, but he gets a very timely play, and we did know he had the pulse as well, but a timely play of the turn timber to stop it.
So, yeah, Nick had the perfect answer there. He didn't even need to use his equipment. He still has some block on the gloves. He's got his boots. He still has his tunic. And he's just comfortable just following that up with another hammer.
Now, again, here we have he's at 1. We have this situation where maybe he thought, I can close out this game with a fused Oakenol. I can land this hit and then rip cards.
Right.
But because it was so well answered, now you run into the issue where literally all you have to do as Nick is present damage.
Exactly.
Because nothing can be leaked, and your opponent doesn't have equipment to... besides the one block, the one time you block for 2 with the Ironhide legs. Besides that, you're just there. So you have to find a way to get there, and it may just come off the back of a fuse here.
So Jonathan coming in with another Captain Planet activation.
And it's going to jam down that red Evergreen. Coming in for 9, go again, dominate.
It's a strong attack, I don't think it's enough to finish Nick off here. But it's not going to do nothing.
Well, no, we obviously see he can throw in the legs. He can, chuck in his tunic plus the Crater Fist last block there.
Do we know what card he has in his arsenal? Does he have a
I think he's
defense reaction?
I think he's maintained the Pulse of Eisenloft through both turns in hand, which he used to fuse the Turn Timber last turn, which was in his arsenal. But we don't necessarily know what's in there now, and now we do.
There we go.
Spoiler alert! It is an alpha. Just absolute shiny staunch response.
You love to see it.
I'm just going to say it. Those foil alpha cards, those hit different. Those are good, man.
I was literally going to say the exact same thing. I'm not even kidding. They do hit different.
Chooses to block the icy hammer there, or just the regular hammer for 1 block plus a card.
Yeah, if you're Jonathan here, you got to be a little bit disappointed when you see the staunch response coming in from the arsenal.
You are getting close, though, because if you can maintain this life kind of parity right here and land a fuse, you might be able to catch Nick off with no outside of the Pulse of Eisenloft, which I think he's maintained and held on to.
I think so.
Turn after turn, not arsenaling it again here, I believe. He's just consistently kept it in his hand for a possible fuse to win the game himself.
Yeah.
If you can catch him out with more than just, or with less than just that, like he has that and not much else, maybe you can steal the game. And I think that's what his thought process is. But Nick in a very commanding position with blocks on his equipment still, with the ability to just keep your opponent at 1 by just going Winter's Wail when they come at you, and then possibly landing a fuse.
Yeah. And it looks like he might have finally arsenaled that card. Difficult to tell if he arsenaled it or if he's just kind of like setting it down.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It could also be like a perfectly stacked hand of 4 cards.
That also could be the case. It could be the case. So we have a full block coming in here. I mean, at this point, everything has to be a full block.
Yeah, it was an Arsenal Eisenloft. Oh, and there's a fuse. Does it come across for game?
So let's see. This one.
This is 9 red evergreen.
Yeah, it's a red
9.
evergreen.
And we do know that the pulse can block for 6 at the very least, plus buff up anything else that it affects.
Yeah, we have 6 from that. We also have, 2 from the boots, 1 from the gloves, 1 from the tunic. So, I mean, Nick still has a lot of virtual life here, as I like to call it.
Sure. He just has to keep in mind that this is going to be followed up by another attack, and if it's followed up by a Winter's Wail, you can chart for that. It's coming across for 4, which would, if you messed up and you had to full take the Winter's Wail, you'd go to 1 yourself.
Yeah. I would say there's a non-zero chance we see a Winter's Wail this turn.
Now, you know what would be the absolute spiciest thing of all time?
Tell me, what is the absolute
if one of these players somehow arsenaled and never showed a single copy of Pummel, and then Crown of Seeds it all the way through the deck, and then found it right now. Fire breathing would also be cool, but not nearly as cool as a sneakily hidden Pummel.
Yeah,
for that would be I'm just gonna say it. If that happened, that'd be the greatest moment.
Well, yeah, it would be spicy like the fire blasting out of the fire breathing.
That's true. Yeah. I would be breathing fire off the back of that off the back of that Pummel.
I would lose my mind if someone
just
got
what
pummeled
if?
here.
What if?
All right, so we do have a
this leaves him taking 2 here, blocking 6
shield
plus
impulse.
Yep, plus the shield.
So yeah, I like this. You're not committing a ton of resources into this. Just your shield, which, like we talked about, just stays around. And that pulse, he got a lot of use out of that pulse. That pulse has done work.
It did. It was also very threatening as well, because it opened you up to the possibility of, fusing and winning the game with it. In this moment, he was like, this is probably the best case scenario for actually just using it and then not dying, because, is that a fuse? Is that an evergreen? And is that the game?
That is an evergreen.
It depends on the arsenal. Wait, I think he has his own Pulse of Eisenloft, perhaps? Or was that a Volthaven? I couldn't quite tell. I was looking on the face cam to see.
We've seen a lot of, perfectly timed defense reactions this
Yes,
match.
Both playing absolutely fantastically. We should definitely mention the fact that both of these players absolutely killing it on
100%.
Their reads, their planning, their arsenaling. Because it's not just about throwing a card down there, because you have the capability of Crown of Seizing at any time. And so when to arsenal a defense reaction, when to arsenal a card you want to Crown of Seeds away is very nuanced, especially because both of these players are playing a heavy defense reaction archetype.
Yeah, 100% for sure. And Jonathan kind of took a little gander at his card in arsenal, decided to maybe roll it back a little bit, not commit to anything quite yet.
He's going to Crown of Seeds to prevent 1 and maybe dig for a way out of this dominated attack.
Ooh. Digging when you're at 1 against a very threatening attack is, if you're Nick, you're I think you're pretty happy seeing this.
Well, again, all you're really looking for at this point is a defense reaction. I don't think there's any way out of with a single 3-block card. You can block 1 Crown of Seeds. You can block 1 instant. Very interesting. Trying to see if he wants to pay something there. He's going to probably say no. This loses go again, and you still have to deal with it.
Yeah,
because
possible bait.
On the board, he's got 1 block on Crown, 2 blocks with the boots here, and then 3 makes 6, but still dies to 3 damage.
Yeah, you need a defense reaction.
He did have a Pulse of Eisenloft, so that is going to pay, and it's going to buff up the block there, so it does cover everything. That did lose the go again as well. So Blizzard actually came in clutch there.
Pretty spicy turn, actually.
Yeah, came in absolutely clutch there. That could be the turn that wins the game too. Who knows?
That Blizzard looked kind of like a bluff, and he's like, "No,
it did.
It's actually not."
Now I think that was an offensive Crown of Seeds from Nick on the end of Jonathan's turn after he chooses to, or before he arsenals the actual card. And he's going to pitch for the Oakenhold. Now, this is just 7.
Just 7.
Don't believe this is fused, but if anything goes across, it's game. He's going to Crown of Seeds. Double block with 2 3s would do it. But, again, this is Starvo. They could just draw into a handful of 2s.
That is true. That is true, especially like we talked about earlier with Autumn's touch kind of like out of the picture.
There was that earlier. Wow, yeah, and that's exactly what we talked about. He has to block with 2s.
Exactly.
And that leaves him with a single card in hand, which he's just then going to arsenal again, most likely.
And, now we start to see the shrinking of the decks, right?
Yep.
Every turn we get past where, these players have to block with, multiple cards per hand.
I think that was the Oakenold we saw him pitch maybe 7 turns ago.
Yeah, exactly.
8 turns ago. There's the offensive Crown of Seeds as well. Tick up the Tunic. Now we have Tunic resource available. We've got a sculpted 5-card hand. No Fuse still. At this point, you may be running out of Fuse abilities just because you may have used one or more of the distributions. But still pushing a 7 break ground, and you have the tempo.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're Nick here, things are looking pretty good. Obviously, Jonathan's not out of this yet, right? Neither player are out of the woods. But if I'm Nick here, oh, so we have a
3 block on. He's blocking with a pulse plus 2 blocks, I believe it was.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to, right?
3, 5, 7. That's what it blocked. It blocked exactly 7. He's going to present damage back.
Yeah.
Icy Hammer for 4. Now Nick could choose if he's got the fuse. He could choose to take this and just not take it. Single card block and take the frostbite is what I was alluding to, and then just go from there. But maybe he's just going to chuck equipment so that he can.
He could do that too.
Yeah. Tunic resource, chuck the equipment plus 1 card, leaves him a 3-card hand plus an arsenal. So he could have a fuse to finish this.
This is really coming down to the wire.
Down to the wire indeed. Oh, and he does. He's got the fuse.
Wow.
And what is he going to play?
Scary.
Red Evergreen for 9. Dominate. Go again.
9 dominate.
This may close it out.
Threatening. Follow up with a Winter's Wail.
There's the Seeds trigger.
Oh man, how do you come back from this?
I don't know if he has a defense reaction. That's going to do it.
Yeah.
Didn't have the defense reaction, and that means Nick Butcher picking up the win in a very, very grindy matchup.
Yes.
A very grindy mirror match between Starvo and Starvo. What did you think about that?